Many high-functioning adults share a common reputation. They are the reliable workers, the flexible partners, and the low-maintenance friends who never seem to have a bad day or a pressing need. They possess a near telepathic attunement to others, reading the subtle emotional shifts and unstated needs of everyone in the room before a single word is spoken. Yet, if the focus shifts and someone offers them care or assistance, they often experience a physical and emotional freeze. Their system treats an offer of support as an intrusion or a threat. This facade of extreme self-sufficiency often masks a heavy internal conviction, the belief that they are entirely alone and ultimately replaceable. These traits form the psychological fingerprint of a specific shared past. We usually identify trauma through visible harm, explosive events, or overt abuse that leave obvious marks. Quiet trauma functions through absence. It is an emotional vacuum, the prolonged lack of interaction and validation during critical developmental years. The overlooked child grew up physically safe and provided for. Emotionally, however, they were completely unseen. The visceral feeling of being replaceable in adulthood is the direct continuation of being emotionally unacknowledged as a child. Typical emotional development requires a caregiver to mirror a child's feelings. When a child is sad or scared, the caregiver's response helps them process that emotion. When a caregiver chronically fails to provide this mirroring, it creates a systemic void in the child's development. The child eventually registers that their feelings do not matter to the outside world, and that expressing distress will never prompt a rescue. This pattern results in an insecure attachment. The signal from the child node repeatedly fails to receive a return signal, leading to a broken connection. Lacking an external environment to help regulate emotions, the child is forced to develop a rigid emotional self-sufficiency to survive. This childhood self-sufficiency is a distress response to an unreliable environment, though it is often misidentified as maturity. To survive an emotionally barren environment without collapsing, the developing brain makes a specific physiological trade-off. As this chart shows, the brain begins a systematic dampening of internal signals, actively reducing the child's awareness of their own needs. In a vacuum, expressing internal needs wastes vital energy. Shutting these signals down helps the child conserve energy. Simultaneously, the brain amplifies external signals. The child's radar hypertunes to the emotions and moods of others. By anticipating a caregiver's mood, the child can avoid causing friction and ensure they remain low maintenance. This creates a permanent imbalance in emotional processing, heavily skewed toward the external world. This neurological shift optimizes the child for survival in a neglectful home, even as it costs them their internal emotional compass. In adulthood, these survival mechanisms continue to run automatically in every social and professional interaction. This extreme self-sufficiency functions as a barrier, preventing the individual from forming deep, interdependent connections. The resulting isolation reinforces the belief that they are entirely alone and easily replaceable, which in turn fuels the need for even greater self-sufficiency. The psychological armor that provided safety during childhood has become an adult prison. Present-day loneliness and the persistent feeling of invisibility are the outputs of an overactive, misapplied defense mechanism. The inability to ask for help was a survival strategy that kept a vulnerable child intact when nobody else was looking out for them. The challenge is that the brain is still running a high-alert program for an environment that no longer exists. Recovery involves the slow, often uncomfortable process of building a tolerance for being seen and having personal needs acknowledged. Childhood taught that invisibility was the only path to safety. Security in adulthood begins the moment they allow themselves to take off the armor and receive care.